351 civilians dead, 170 security personnel, far more than the number of fatalities we've suffered in the northeast and in Kashmir just over the last 5 months. Has the situation now been reached where we have absolutely no option left but to deploy the Indian Army to take on the Red Army? That's the center stage face-off for tonight. Joining me in the studio, General V.P. Malik, former Chief of the Indian Army Staff. With me also, Major General G.D. Bakshi. He was in charge of the Romeo force of the Rashtriya Rifles, which is now being looked at as an option to be deployed against the Red Army. 7,000 Rashtriya Rifle personnel have been asked to be on standby to take on the Red Menace. Does this make sense? Also, Shoma Chaudhary, Executive Editor of Tehelka, joins us once again. We've got from Kolkata, Professor Sujato Bhadra. He's a leading human rights activist. My first question to you, General Bakshi. You believe very strongly that the Indian state now has no option left but to deploy the army against the Naxals. A lot of people think that is suicide and harakiri. The government is currently considering it. Why do you think this is an effective option?
All that I would say is there are strong and cogent reasons for not deploying the army, such as it will take you to the heartland, far away from the borders it is supposed to defend. It will adversely affect your mobilization timings. And number two, the army is quite understandably not keen to come in because we will be caught up thereafter by Arundhati Roy and her likes with a slew of allegations of murder, rape, etc. But that said, if you think of the country today, I'm afraid the CRPF is not in a position to tackle this problem. The losses that they have taken at Dantewada have only sort of highlighted our apprehensions that this force, unfortunately, they are good boys, but they are not structured, they are not trained, they are not oriented, they don't have the operational ethos to launch offensive counter-insurgency operations in dense jungle terrain. So however much we may not like it, however much we may not want it, I'm afraid just now there is no option. Don't reinforce a failure, don't keep using the CRPF, you will lose a lot of men. And what is even worse, you will give a lot of weapons.
You will give a lot of weapons, don't reinforce a failure. That's a very passionate plea coming from somebody who's led the Rashtriya Rifles. General Malik, as a former Chief of the Indian Army Staff, do you agree with the current proposal under consideration? It's been sent out from Army Headquarters to the Northern Army Command. 7,000 men, as we speak, are being asked to be on standby to take on the Red Army. Is that now the only option left, sir?
Rahul, I wouldn't like to look at this in a short-sighted manner. Let's go for the principles. The principle that you have for internal security, your principal arm is police. And you have various categories of police. You have the civil police, armed police, state police, CPOs, paramilitary forces, etc. And they have been neglected time and again. People have been talking about it and they have failed us every time, whether it is Northeast or J&K or Punjab and anywhere. And you have brought in the army. Because of your own failings, not being able to improve and make them effective, you are wanting to use army
but
again.
General Malik, you're saying have a long-sighted approach, while ideally everybody would agree with you. We have a situation on our hands and that situation is very alarming. 100 people are dying every month, more than the number of fatalities we are suffering anywhere else. This situation is clearly not in the control of the CRPF and the local police that's been deployed. Do we really have another option, sir?
In this situation there are so many other problems also. The center state problem. So far all the CRPF, whether they were effective or ineffective, they have been functioning under the DG of the state. And we know their capabilities. They have never been into the jungle. Are you going to make the army work under those people?
But there are ways of deploying the army. It's happened in Assam, it's happened in Nagaland, it's happened in Kashmir. Even in 1971, there was Operation Steeplechase, where the Indian Army participated in the offensive against the Naxalites in West Bengal. There is past precedent, General Malik. Why can't it be done?
Yeah, I know that there have been past precedents, but again and again you are going to make use of the army. I am not talking about the other harmful effect that it will have on the army, on the nation. You will further demoralize your paramilitary forces. Again another failure, and people will say, no, we want army again and again. But in this particular situation, okay, you want to make use of Rashtriya Rifles or somebody else, use it for a short while, get them out of that place. I am definitely not in favor of keeping these people.
General Bakshi, is there a concern that we might get trapped in a similar situation that the Pakistani army got trapped into in the Swat and Waziristan areas when they took on the Taliban, who were made up of local people? That's what the Naxals are. Let's face that reality. And therefore, the army is not very motivated because a lot of these people come from West Bengal, they come from Chhattisgarh, they come from Orissa, and they therefore don't want to take on their own brethren.
Look, the army would least of all like to take on its own brethren. I mean, the chief is absolutely right when he says this. I mean, this is not our primary role. But the fact of the matter, unfortunately, the situation is now, I think, reached a stage where even I see no other option or no other way. The chief has mentioned a very, very cogent point that when you operate there, you can't let them operate in the under the police.
Oh, most definitely.
Everywhere where the army is called in to intervene, it is an instrument of last resort. Which is that point of last resort? That means you have employed all your state forces, you have employed your police forces, your paramilitary forces, and you have failed.